Hello everyone, today what we're going to be doing is building a deck from scratch. I was asked to build a blue-black deck that wasn't rogues, and so we're going to go ahead and try to do that. Now, the way I usually go if I'm going from scratch and I don't have an idea that I already want to work with, is I look for inspiration amongst the legendary cards in those colors that I'm trying to build around. Now, Kenrith and Tazri show up because they have blue and they have black, and the filter on MTGA is questionable at best. But so we're gonna go ahead and go through these and see what options exist here as far as this goes. Now, as far as legendaries, there are what we're really kind of looking for is something that screams build around me. What do we really want to play? And right now, gotta be honest, nothing on the first page really screams at me. Emery could be a thing, but I kind of want to stick away from the mill, even self mill, because that's kind of close to the rogues. And what happens is what I'm looking for is I want to put together a deck that isn't going to be hated out by the same things that hate out rogues. So they'll expect rogues and not get rogues, and hopefully that gives us an edge. Let's see. Eleonora is an interesting choice, also a budget choice, and I might go that way. Gadwick is a great card in general. Just being able to draw X cards for X is always good, even if there's 3 blue mana stacked in front of that. Thassa is a build-around card. We could go with like a blue-black that uses Thassa. I want to try to be closer to the actual Dimir theme, though, and not more of a mono blue, which most of those legends are kind of pushing us towards. Thrix the Sudden Storm is an interesting choice, and I might end up using him if we go with like a Kraken style list. We'll see how that goes. Magic Mirror is an interesting card, but I don't think anyone's actually successfully used it, and I don't think I'm going to be the one to do it, so we're just going to skip that one. So now, Ayara kind of falls in that same pushing us too close to mono black. Erebos doesn't really do he's not as powerful as the old Erebos used to be. Karavek is a good hoser in certain matchups, but now here's an interesting one. Drawn of the Last Blood Chief could be fun in like a reanimation list where we are just throwing out basically blue-black mid-range, and then Drana ends up coming down and hopefully basically letting us get stuff back from the graveyard. Although, hard to say if that's actually going to happen. Let's see. Where's the actual blue-black cards? Oh, Cauldron of Eternity. That's a good backup build around. If I can't find something better, we'll just build a Cauldron of Eternity deck. Let's see. So we've got a couple options here. Atris, not really a build-around card. It's a good card and probably goes into whatever build-around deck we do end up putting together, just because it's good card selection, good card advantage. But there's other options here. So Ashiok the Nightmare Muse. It's a Planeswalker. I don't like the idea of building around a Planeswalker right now just because of kind of what I mentioned in a previous video. There's a lot of hate for Ugin. And so since there's a lot of Ugin hate, that means that other Planeswalkers are just getting caught up in that. So unless you're going dedicated Planeswalkers or going with the best Planeswalker, which again is Ugin, any other Planeswalker just kind of like falls short. We're not going to go Zareth San because he's a rogue. Although, I can't think of Zareth San without thinking him as Zareth San, Japanese honorific. Anyways, Gigan Cyberclaw, also known as Garuda, Doom of Depths. Now this is a good build around card. I don't know that we want to actually use him as a companion though, because that even mana cost thing is a really big restriction. Because it basically means that you're not really doing anything on turn 1. You're not doing the best that you could be doing on turn 3. And those are very important turns. in this format. Turn 1, not so much, unless, of course, you're facing off against rogues or mono red, in which case, yes, it's still very important. So let's go ahead and build a Garuda deck. We're going to go with 2 copies of it. Now, the main thing about Garuda is that you really need to control, so that even converted cost is still kind of a restriction there. So in addition to working with this, what we're going to really want to do, and is that it? Yeah, because we want to be able to cast all the great 2 mana removal spells, or not 2 mana, but 3 mana and 1 mana. So what we're gonna do here next is we're gonna look into creatures specifically, and we care about the even costed ones, but mostly we care about the expensive ones. We're gonna list 7+, but we're really only looking for 8. So here we go. So what could we theoretically bring back with a Garuda? Well, Rankle's a great choice, because Rankle would come back and would also be hasty. Is there really no 6-drops in this? This is a really short list. Did I do something wrong? Oh, still got legendary selected. Yeah, okay. That's much better. Okay, so and you know what? We're not even going to worry about the 4-drops. I mean, there's going to be some 4-drops probably, but I think what we were really looking for are the real payoff cards, and that's going to be 6s, 7s, and 6s and 8s. So in terms of 6s, we've got Frilled Seed Serpent. 7 mana can make it unblockable. It's only a 4/6 for 6. That's not going to be what we want, because we want things that do cool things when they enter the battlefield. So Riddlemaster Sphinx could work. Because Riddlemaster Sphinx says bounce a creature. So if we go with that, then when we play the Garuda, the Sphinx comes down as well. You bounce a blocker, we end up 11 power. That's a possibility. But let's see if there's better stuff. Now, Serpent of Yawning Depths. Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control cannot be blocked except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Shouldn't it be Octopi? Am I wrong about that? Anyway, let's see. As far as that goes, I mean, that's a good card. It basically makes your stuff unblockable for the most part. Tolarian Kraken. That would be good for a budget build if we were going to do a budget build of this. And Wingfold Terran. That's an interesting one, because you could get the hexproof creature if you really needed it. But let's move on. So we're going to ignore all of these 7-drops. 7/7s. We don't care about the 7s. That's all 7s. So what about black? What's black got? Black's got Massacre Worm. That's a really good inclusion for a Garuda deck, because, it's a sweeper and a creature. So you could come down and wipe out all your creature's little stuff and put 12 power on the board. So that's a good card. Nightmare's not so good if it's not mono black. And then we're already into the 7-drops. But is there an 8-drop? There is Void Beckoner. Void Beckoner is underwhelming. An 8/8 Death Touch. I mean, it's already so big. I think it's more of a cycling card if you're going to go cycling. Lochmere Serpent in the mid. That is a reasonable card that could go into a Garuda deck. Lochmere Serpent can't be blocked. For a blue, sacrificing the island. If you're basically forcing through it, this is basically a 3-turn clock. Like, sacrificing 3 islands to win the game doesn't sound that bad. Likewise, sacrificing a swamp in the late game to draw cards, it can also really get you there. And then, of course, the ability to exile cards from your opponent's graveyard to get it back is not terrible. I don't know. Honestly, Garuda is feeling underwhelming right now. I don't feel like it's a particularly strong strategy. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go with something a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go after that other card we saw, because that was, to me, a more interesting card. Serpent of Yawning Depths. All right, so this is going to kind of be our finisher to a certain extent. So let's go ahead and put one in the deck. I'll go ahead and put a second one in just for funsies. Here we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and we're going to refilter. But we care about everything now. We're going to focus on creatures, but we're specifically going to focus on the ones that this guy cares about. So let's see what we've got for Krakens. All right. The Deer Kraken is a great card. No doubt. Shoal Kraken, not great on its own. Solarian Kraken, we could make it work. Let's go ahead and throw a couple Krakens in. And if it's not budget, we would definitely play the playset of the Nadir Kraken. So what's next? We also care about Leviathans. So the crab is a Leviathan. That's interesting. We can go with one of him since that's a 4-drop and we desperately need a curve. Probably 2. So now we've also got the Archipelagor, which mutates. And the mutate effect is a sleep for a number of creatures equal to the number of things that mutate. So if this doesn't work, that's our backup plan is blue-black mutate, because I know that's at least a reasonably interesting playable deck. And honestly, the bottom half of this deck's going to all be removal anyways, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we'll throw in 2 of this guy just as a surprise. Oh, your big blocker can't block now kind of thing. That could be reasonable. What about octopuses? Well, clearly the Sea Dashers come in, because not only are they good by themselves, they also kind of play along with the Archipelagor. 4 mana for a hill giant that scries is not exciting at all. Octoprophet does not excite me. I would run it if I had to force this theme, and there wasn't anything better, but like I want to see what serpents exist right now. Okay. Yeah, so the main issue that we have here is that we do not have a curve. This is just not work as far as like the creature curve goes. And this is doubly true because the Sea Dasher Octopi are not really a 3-drop. They could be a 3-drop. We could, on an empty board, flash it in and just use it as a 3-drop creature. The reality is that we're likely going to want to cast them on top of something, so that means that the earliest we could theoretically do it is on a Nadir Kraken on 3. And there's no black creatures at all that fit within this theme, so it's just slim pickings. This is going to be more of like a card to keep an eye on and remember, like as Historic continues to fill up with more cards that, you know, maybe eventually there'll be some kind of good curve there. We're just going to back off on this, and what we're going to do is we're going to go with the mutate theme. So we're going to cut the stuff that doesn't go with the mutate. We're going to keep the Archipelagor. We're going to keep the Sea Dasher Octopi. And what we are going to also now worry about is mutate. All right, now in mutate, we've got a couple of cards that are kind of must-haves. So Baby Godzilla, yeah, you got to run him. He does what we want to do, which is make our mutates cost less. Now, flying and drawing a card, pretty good, but bouncing an opponent's creature at flash speed, better. Zagoth Mamba, I think, is cute. It's a little bit of a trap. It's a card that I might put in the sideboard to bring in against aggressive decks, but the reality is that most of the mono red and other aggressive decks are just going to shock this or stomp it and move on. Batra also has flash, does really good things in terms of, you know, it's expensive, but it kills a creature and theoretically could kill multiple creatures if you mutate a Dirge Bat onto a Dirge Bat. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. Besides, at 4 mana flash, you can, on turn 4, flash that in on end step, and then, mutate something else on top of it. And that really helps you out. Chittering Harvester, we're going to go with that one, kind of for the same reason. And do we have anything in just straight up blue-black for mutate? It does not appear that we do. Now, we could consider adding another card. Mothra's Great Cocoon is a trap. I'm just going to let you know that. Anything that gives a mutate bonus that you don't actually care about itself, and a +1/+1 counter is just very underwhelming. You actually just are thinning your deck too much in terms of good cards to put something like that in there. There are much better cards that could be used. A counter spell, or removal. Now, on the other hand, we could splash green to include the Brokos. Being able to mutate from the graveyard is a very useful ability. But we're going to stick with the Dimir. We're going to stick with blue-black. So we don't have any split cards here as far as the mutate stuff goes. How many creatures do we actually have in the deck right now? So we're looking at 19 creatures, 24 lands at the moment. That creature density is a little low, but everything that we have in here right now is on theme. So rather than... so what we're going to do here is we're going to look for maybe a couple more all-star creatures that work well with the theme, and we're going to also look for the removal that we want to put in to make it all work together. So in terms of removal, first thing I got to turn all my filters off here, because if I don't want just creatures, we're going to want Blood Chief's Thirst. This is just a really great catch-all card. I guess that filter was important. And we're going to want 3 copies. We could go with a 4th, but I don't think that it's really necessary to go with all 4, just because you don't want to be completely flooded on these things on against a control matchup where your opponent's just not playing any creatures. So we're going to go with that. We are going to go with a counterspell of some sort. I know not everybody enjoys counterspells, but trust me, you'd much rather be throwing them out than being on the receiving end of them. What we're going to go with is the, not the cancel, but the cancel that cycles, which I don't quite remember the name of off the top of my head. I believe it's neutralize. Did I pass it? Yeah, here we go. We're going to go with the full 4 copies because they cycle. And that gives us, so if our opponent's not really giving us any good targets, or if we're just desperate for a better answer that's already on, an answer to something that's already on the board, we can cycle it to get a little deeper, find something else. We're going to go with probably more removal here. Yeah. So we're going to look for more removal. We're going to find that in black, obviously. Now, in terms of removal, there's a couple other options that we could go with. Feed the Swarm is an interesting choice for black and blue decks because it gives you an answer to enchantments that you otherwise would be just plain dead to. So I like the idea in best of 1 of going at least 1. 2 here is fine, because again, I'm trying to fill out this deck, and the reality is I am still a little ways away, 52. So I would like to find 1 more good creature and 1 more good removal. So what works well for the removal? We could run with the Hagra Mauling. And the reason I would say Hagra Mauling is just because it doesn't do you damage to yourself, which a lot of the other 3-mana options are going to do. It hits creatures and planeswalkers, I believe. Where are we at? Yeah. No, it's just creatures. Never mind. But it's also it is also a land, which can help with mana issues. What What we might also want to go with instead is E2 Extinction because of its instant speed effect, and being only one black mana means it is a little easier to cast, although 2 color decks don't usually have a problem with that. So what we're going to go with here, actually, you know what this deck really needs right now, because it's got card advantage in the form of the Sea Dasher, it's got it in Polywog. What it really needs right now, believe it or not, is ramp, because we do have, the Dirge Bat is actually a 6-drop if we're going to mutate it. The Archipelagore is way up there, so we want to be able to get to these reasonably reliably. So let's go look for some mana rocks. Alright. Now, Traveler's Amulet is not a mana rock because all it does is it trades itself for a basic land. So you might if you're gonna consider Traveler's Amulet a rock, you might as well just put an extra land in the deck. Arcane Signet would be good if we had a commander, but we don't have a commander, so that is not going to work. Prismite is mana negative, so we're not going to be using that. Let's see. Now, Palladium Mirror is definitely ramp. It is creature-based ramp, though, which means it's a little more vulnerable. But it is 2 instead of 1, which is a big deal. And I did kind of want one more creature. The other cool thing about this is that the Palladium Mirror could be mutated onto. So that is something to consider. But I think that there's better options out there. And that in particular is going to be either the Skyclave Relic, which can produce mana of any color, which is useful for fixing, but also the ability to kick it, which would eliminate our mana problems for basically the rest of the game. The Spinning Wheel. I believe that in the world of mana rocks, the Spinning Wheel is a little bit slept on, because it can tap stuff down. 5 mana is very expensive to tap something down. I'm not saying it's a great option, but it's an option, and especially if you're running a flash style deck. Which this deck technically isn't, but it's very close. It could be all flash if we wanted to change it up a little bit, and then we would basically just go away from the mutate theme and just go with a flash theme. Some of the removal would switch around. We would change Feed the Swarm and Bloodchief's Thirst for instant options. Neutralize would probably also get paired up with another counterspell of some kind, maybe even just cancel. But I would probably go with something that's a little bit more versatile, something that's better in a more situational counterspell, like maybe a 2-2 split of Negate and Essence Scatter. Anyways, all that aside, Spinning Wheel is an option. And then we're into the 4 mana stuff. And so there are 4 mana rock options, but we end up being in kind of a weird place there. But I am going to notice here the Solemn Simulacrum. And that's not technically a mana rock, but it is ramp. And the cool thing about that is it's also ramp that lets us, mutate onto it. So I think this is a deck that actually really wants the Solemn. So we've got a good mutate target, and we've got a ramp. And now we've got 4 spots left, because we do need something else. I think that's all we're going to find in the colorless section. Meteorite's cute. Since we are ramping, we could always just put in a sneaky Ugin. And, I'm never going to say that's a bad idea. I'm going to put in 1 Ugin, just for funsies. And then, just for more funsies, let's go with 3 more Meteorites. So we've got a little more ramp. Meteorite is also kind of like cheesy removal. It's not great. Most of the time, it's just going to not do anything. But you can always just dome them to the face if you don't get anything else out of it. And it does turn stuff off. But the reality is that if you desperately need to get to 6, Meteorite will get you to 6. If you desperately need to get to 8 for Ugin, it'll get you there eventually. It's an option. This is also kind of somewhat meant to be a budget build. Obviously, there are quite a few rares that are actually in here, but we could definitely do some substitutions to bring those out. But in doing so, I would probably step away from the mutate theme, because the 2 best cards in the deck, as far as that goes, are clearly the Sea Dasher and the Dirge Bat for that. The other The other cards are mostly affordable, a bunch of uncommons, couple commons. Yeah, if there's any real demand, I'll switch that up. All right, now here's the important thing: the lands. We are not going to go with 13 and 11 because that is suboptimal. What we want to do here in particular is we want to put in some Fabled Passages because that's just a good thing to do. Yep. And we are also going to fix our basic lands because these guys... Did I not get that one? Huh. What land you play is very important. You can't just go out there with scrub islands and scrub swamps. You've got to have cool looking lands. Yeah, look at the swamps here. Now, I love these John Avons from, these I believe are the unstable lands. These guys are just very, very good looking in my opinion, so that's what I usually go with. And now we also need some specialized lands. So what I'm looking here are the good dual lands here. Temple of Deceit is going to be my first pick, and I'm going to go ahead and throw in the 3 of those. We'll make it the playset. Now, most of the time you're going to want to play those first, and then we're going to cut 2 more of each of here to bring in the Clearwater Pathway / Murkwater Pathway. Now, these are ideal, obviously, and I just cranked up the number of rares in this deck by 12, so if you don't want to craft all that, you don't have to. The deck will run mostly as well with just that 16-14, or 11-13, or whatever it was before. You know, it's not crucial to have these, but every one of them that you craft will up the reliability of your opening hands by a little margin. So I'm just going to craft that one missing thing that I had because I have... Am I out of rares? That was my last one. Huh. Oops. Well, not a big deal. I wanted to make... I was going to need that anyways at some point, I'm sure. Never feel bad about crafting the dual lands because every deck that has those colors is going to want them for the most part. Alright, so we've got a 60 out of 60 here. This is a place where we can start. So what we're going to do is we're going to back out of this. We're going to name it. We're going to name it Demir Mutate. Just tremendously creative name. And we are going to go do the next and arguably most important step, which is we're going to test it. We're just going to jump in the play queue, and we're going to play a game. Now, obviously, if I was really testing this, I would not stop until I had played at least 5 games. And the reason for that is because you want to get a variety. You want to know what it is your opponents are going to be trying to do and how your deck reacts to it specifically. Now, a lot of this is all theory crafting that you can do ahead of time, you know, depending on what you're trying to get out of a deck build, you know. If you're going into a deck build with the idea that you're going to build a competitive winning deck, first of all, don't even bother. Just go net deck something and then work with that. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, nobody can build a good deck, you know, the internet's the best, yada yada, or anything like that. The reality is that a lot of the work's already been done for you, and so there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. What you're really looking to do is hopefully save yourself a lot of heartache. So once you've got a starting point, and you don't even have to play those decks necessarily, but you do need to know what's out there, what exists. What you're going to want to do is use the deck's pros, cons, whatever, to try to acquisitions expert attack the metagame in a particular way. Either doing something that they are not expecting, or attacking them in some way they're not ready to defend against, or, you know, like I said, taking a idea that's already there and giving it some kind of new angle that makes it better. Now, if you're building for funsies, then you just do what we did, but, you know, other options that happen there as well. Wow, this guy is just all over me here. All right. Now, this is my only Ugin, but and so I'm loath to give it up. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Harvester. I'm going to cast the Sea Dasher on my end step, and then I'm going to untap and probably play the Solemn. But I can only play the Solemn if I have a land. So if I get rid of the Fabled Passage, I need to untap and draw a card. But theoretically, I get 2 cards to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and play the risky play, because I want that Ugin, and I probably need to win. All right, here we go. Flash in the Sea Dasher. Meteorite. Not great, but we get one more draw. And land. Oh, man. That's the gamble paying off. All right, so we get to play our Solemn. We get to go grab a mountain. All right. And now, crazily enough, we've got the Meteorite to follow this up to help ping down any blockers that they might play. They've got 4 mana. They could play big things, but black actually doesn't have a lot of high toughness stuff. I'm actually more likely to see a removal spell on our Sea Dasher, which wouldn't be the end of the world. You know, I'd prefer to draw more cards. No, nothing. Okay. Well, here's what's going to happen. We're going to try it. We're going to run out the Meteorite. He's probably hoping that... Yeah, okay. He was slow rolling it. He was hoping that the Acquisitions Expert could block or something. Save himself some time. It's alright, though. We're just going to go ahead and kill his blocker, and we're going to get in there. So, we missed our land drop this time, but we did get to play a Meteorite, which brings us a little closer. Nighthawk Scavenger. That is a card that we are really, really hoping we can answer. Let's go one more blue. All right. So how many are we up to? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're 1 off of our Ugin. So we're going to go ahead and play our second Meteorite. Can't kill that, so we're just going to go ahead and do this. Now, we should have attacked first. He might have blocked, and then we could have killed it with the Meteorite. It's not a big deal in this case, because the Ugin's going to kill it if we get to resolve an Ugin. And honestly, we want him to block it anyways to go ahead and give us a card. That's why I still attacked. We want to draw the card. Him getting to... We're not going to win this race, so not blocking is actually probably the right thing to do here. Ooh, a Rankle. That is... actually a problem, because he's going to force me to discard the Ugin. I can't imagine that he doesn't force the discard here unless he really loves what he has in his hand. Nope, there it is. He didn't even have us discard or sacrifice. So, goodbye, Ugin. That was what we had as far as actually being in this game. So, we'll just go ahead and attack. We're going to pass the turn. We'll go ahead and cycle this when he goes to attack. We're basically digging for removal. Unfortunately, most of our removal sorcery speed, so it probably would have been smarter to have done that during my main phase. But there's always a possibility I got to use it on something. Yeah, no. Yeah, plus the Rankle making us discard. Yeah, this is just a bad matchup here. Not really a bad matchup, I should say. It just, he had what he needed to stop what we were doing. Successfully picked apart our hand. And we never actually got any of our removals, so yeah. Nope, and then a land. That'll do it. We're just going to go ahead and concede. So not an auspicious start for this particular deck. You know, it's not a huge deal to lose the first couple of games. You know, that's where you pick up what your weaknesses are. So you know, obviously this deck has some problems to getting its hand attacked like that. You know, sometimes you don't have to worry about that in the sense that you are not obligated to twist your deck to try to answer every other deck that's out there. It's not going to happen. What you need to do is pick and choose your battles. You know, you have to decide what decks are you willing to lose to. What decks do you want to beat? And know that going in, and then you can make some, you know, in best of one, you make some adjustments to try to shore up those weak matchups. Yeah, so the main issue that this deck still has is that it still doesn't really have a curve of any kind. We got to mulligan that because we didn't get anything like really playable. We'll keep this 6 because we did get a Baby Godzilla, and we got some removal, which is what we didn't have last game. We're going to return the duplicate Solemn, because that was honestly the only card we really could get rid of. We needed everything else in the hand, because we want to get up to 4 to actually be able to cast the Solemn, so we couldn't throw back another land. And we definitely weren't getting rid of Baby Godzilla or Feed the Swarm, because those are basically the reasons we kept the hand in the first place. We're really hoping to draw now a mutate creature of some kind. The opponent's taking some time here to decide what they're going to do. Yeah. Honestly, the Meteorite could probably come out of the deck if I'm being serious about building it. You know, a 3-mana rock is going to be a lot better than the Meteorites. Spinning Wheel is better than the Meteorites. Not by much, but definitely by some amount. If for no other reason. I'm not going to throw away removal. I'm going to go ahead and leave that on top. Being able to draw that means that, especially since they mulliganed to way down, I don't know what happened there. I wasn't paying attention, I guess, but when your opponent mulligans that much, like, there's not a whole lot that they can do to get themselves back into the game. I mean, theoretically, they could still do it if they get some real good advantage from somewhere, but honestly, as long as we don't stumble on lands, there's a really good chance that we're just going to run away with this game. Well, stumble on lands or flood out on lands. I mean, there are always ways that, you know, luck could mess us up, but he appears to be a cantrip style deck, and when I say cantrip, I mean cards that draw a card, and that is, those kind of decks tend to really value their hand size, you know, because every card that they don't have in their hand is that less versatility, the less options that they have. You know, they need a critical land mass. There's just so many reasons why mulliganing that much hurts them. Yeah, they didn't even want to play it out. We weren't really cruising, but I can definitely understand why after mulliganing that time they probably didn't feel like they had any real chance of winning, and that's totally understandable. Alright, that was another short game, so I'll go ahead and let's see how long is this video going on. Oh, we're over 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you enjoyed that, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Thank you for your feedback ahead of time. Have a very nice day.